We all have automatic thoughts and emotions that influence our life experience. And unfortunately for many of us, these automatic thoughts and emotions aren't actually serving us or helping us to feel good. But the good news is we can retrain our brains to have healthy patterns that actually support our best performance and improve our quality of life. We're going to chat today with Jon McGraw. He's a founding partner with Vision Pursue, a company that's bringing this critical framework and training to businesses and sports teams so that we can decrease stress and increase performance. I'm Samantha Lane with Lumina Coaching, and I hope you enjoy this episode. So thank you, Jon. Really appreciate you being here with me today.
Yeah, thank you, Samantha. Good to be with you.
Thanks. We've known each other a few years now, and I know that it's been immensely helpful for me to learn this framework because I don't feel like we're taught, as children to what to do with emotions. We all have them, but depending on our family of origins, we're taught different things. And we're living in a world, especially right now in this, COVID crisis climate, that there could be a really big increase of stress and anxiety. And so maybe to start a little bit with the why behind Vision Pursue, or how meaningful it can be for people to truly understand these concepts and train their brains.
Yeah, really good questions and good setup. So for me, this was born out of necessity after retiring from the NFL, 10-year NFL career because of concussions. So very concerned about my long-term brain health, and just dove into neuroscience and health psychology, and I was blown away by all the things we were learning about the brain, and just as important, the relationship between the mind and the brain. So the psychology and the neurology and how they're so intimately connected. And then I was also amazed just how the connection then to the body, our physiology, and the stress response and recovery and all these things. I couldn't believe that I spent 10 years in the NFL and no one taught me, right, these high performance principles that apply in every context. So it was a very selfish pursuit for me early on.
Self-preserving, though.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. But then the more I got into it, the more I saw, wow, this is the struggle here is really universal. And the struggles that I had in playing ball and my teammates had and coaches, and it really is across the board. And back to your point, we were just never taught. We were never taught what the automatic brain is, how it works, right? And so we were taught our whole lives what to think. That's what we were just told. Here's what to think. And as you get a little bit older and you have more experience, then you're taught different frameworks of how to think, right? How to use the what. And at Vision Pursue, we want to go a step further. And we really want to challenge your relationship to your thoughts and to your emotions. And it's at that point, as you begin to challenge that and begin to reframe that relationship, awareness starts to happen. You start to become aware of your programming and what your family imparted to you through genetics and experience and conditioning. And you get to see the really great parts of that, and then also the limitations of that. Yeah. And mindset training is all about elevating those strengths, but then also managing and mitigating the weaknesses and knowing how to respond when those weaknesses show up, particularly in the face of challenge like we're facing today.
Yeah. It sounds so empowering, to be at that point of awareness and then be able to make a choice of how to respond rather than those default things that just happen to us and then we feel crappy.
Yeah, absolutely. It's amazing how quickly stimulus and response happens. And most people think that response is their choice, and usually it's not. Usually it's their automatic program. So someone criticizes you and you get defensive quickly, right? Yeah. And you think that that's you making that, and it's not. It's a defense mechanism in your automatic brain saying we're under attack and we're going to go and have defensive, evasive measures, whatever it is, avoid, run away, confront. So the more that we can slow down stimulus and response and then input a proven response plan, right? So that we're really taking back control over that tiny space in between those two, we really get our power back in that moment.
So it strikes me that it really is kind of a step process where, you want to get your control back and have the response. But before that, you got to know what's going on. And so maybe just break down a little bit of how you guys teach around what an emotion is and sort of maybe that first step of what to do with it.
Yeah, so it's really important to understand how a little bit of how the brain works. And most people would believe that we're thinking beings that feel. So we have a thought and then we have a feeling about it. It's actually the exact opposite. So it's usually a bottom up, particularly when strong emotion or when there's a challenge, adversity, it's bottom up. And so we have an emotion or we have an automatic thought with an emotion. And then that comes to our prefrontal cortex, our conscious awareness, already laced with meaning and emotion. Right. So you don't look at someone and say, go through this criteria and then be, oh, that's an annoying person. Right. Your automatic brain serves up immediately to you. No, that's an annoying person. It decides for you that's an annoying person. And you don't spend a lot of time challenging that. You're just like, oh yeah, I'm annoyed by that person. So understanding the automatic nature of the brain is really, really important. And that all starts in the limbic region of the brain, the emotional center of the brain. And it's a really useful part, but it's also a very limited part. And so when we get those inputs, and they come to us and the story is told, we want to be able to take that story with a grain of salt, right? And challenge it and really ask, is that really true? Right. And even if it is true, it's still only true from our perspective, right? Our very limited perspective. And so recognizing the limitations and the weaknesses of the automatic brain is really, really important.
So I wonder if we could kind of use me as an example there, because I had this situation yesterday, and it kind of speaks to this discomfort I was feeling, but it wasn't true. I just thought it was true. And so I had a recording, another interview that I did yesterday, and I was waiting for it to process. And then I had a panic moment where I thought, shoot, I pushed stop. And then I started the recording again, and then I stopped it, and then I started again. And what if it doesn't save all three of those? What if it's just going to save the last one, which was not the one I needed? I needed the first one. And so for like 2 hours yesterday, I was just sick to my stomach thinking, he's going to be so disappointed in me. I'm so bummed. It's not going to save. I ruined it. And it can spiral. And it didn't spiral too much, but it was still really uncomfortable, like a physical feeling in my stomach of dread and discomfort. And so maybe use me as a guinea pig. What could I have done to not have those 2 hours of my day hijacked by that uncomfortable feeling?
Yeah, it isn't amazing how an experience can create a visceral, right, entire body response to what's happening. And that's the amazing thing about emotions. All emotions are chemical changes in the brain and body, right? So neurotransmitters being released in the brain, hormones in the body, all designed to give us a really important message, right? And so understanding that mechanism is really important, and then understanding that our response to it is even more important. And so in this case, one is you're doing something a little bit new, right? So doing some virtual, some online training.
My third episode today. Yeah.
And you're going to get better and better. But when you're starting something new, we should expect that there's going to be some hiccups, right? Some things that we're not as good at, and we're going to make some mistakes. And so going into something new, it's really important to say, hey, I'm not going to nail this the first time, right? So I'm going to align my expectations with what is probably going to happen. We call that expect the expected. Yeah. Right. So I'm going to anticipate, hey, I'm probably going to make some mistakes in these first few tries, and I'm going to get better and better, and I'll keep improving. Once I've aligned my expectations, then I'm going to handle the emotion. And then I feel that emotion like, oh no, I just screwed that up, right? And I might have to re-record this. I might not be able to use any of this. And all of that is a really good thing, because your automatic brain saying, hey, we care. This is important. We care about this, right? We want this to go over really well. We want this to be of value to the listeners, right? And to be a really good product. So that's a good thing. What most of the time we do is we resist that, and we try to make that go away, right? And at Vision Pursue, we teach a 3-step process: separate, embrace, evaluate, where I'm going to separate and recognize that my automatic brain released a temporary chemical change. It's trying to help me, trying to give me an important signal. I'm going to embrace that and welcome it, right? I'm going to say, hey, thank you. You're right. Yes. Open up to it. Let yourself feel it. This is good. You're right. We do. And then once I've separated, embraced, then I can evaluate, right? And say, what am I going to do about it? Right. And in this case, it was, hey, I got to wait and see how the recording gets processed, and then I'll make a decision at that point. And then that gets into the third step, which is control the controllable, and kind of getting our focus back onto the few things that we have control over in this moment. But I think everyone can relate to that. A lot of us have those experiences on a daily basis as family members and parents. And now we're all, not only are a lot of us parents, but we're also principals and math teachers and science teachers and PE teachers and right. And like school counselors, and doing all these different hats. And it's really easy to think we're going to nail that. We're going to be perfect at it. And we're just not. And we're going to drop the ball sometimes, and that's to be expected. And we're going to feel emotion about that because we want to perform all those roles really well. But there's going to be some struggle. And so we want to give ourselves some grace and patience as we go through that. Welcome the emotion that's there to help you. And then it helps us get our focus back onto the controllable.
Yeah. Awesome. Oh, so much richness there. So a couple of things I want to circle back on is, so in relation to my example, I think I skipped a few in the middle where it was like, okay, I'm recognizing, but then I didn't embrace it. And then I went to what can I control? Well, I can write to Zoom and ask them a question, but then I still hadn't like released it. And so, taking a second to even say like, well, that's still in the future. Like, it's not a mistake yet. It's still processing. You don't even know, but I identified and I attached to something I thought was going to happen.
Yes, because we all want to make the pain go away, right? And so we want to quickly get to evaluation and control, and we want to solve the problem so we don't have to feel the pain anymore and make it go away, which makes total sense. The problem is that we miss out on a really amazing opportunity to do some real internal work of retraining our relationship to our emotions, right? And being able to sit there with that angst in my gut, right? And make friends with that. And
I could imagine that some people are like, that sounds crazy. I don't want to make friends with discomfort, so maybe even to me, like deep breathing comes to mind. Can you give us some examples of what is that mindfulness training to be in that moment when it's super uncomfortable?
Yes. Just give me 1 second.
Oh, go ahead.
So yes, mindfulness is a really important skill, and it's learning how to pay attention in a particular way. And so in this instance, I would highly encourage you to move in to pay attention to the emotion. And that's what this separate embrace piece is I'm going to move into that emotion. Sometimes that emotion's too much, right? Or sometimes we're overwhelmed, too much is going on. And so we want to have the ability to consciously, intentionally redirect our attention to something that's at least productive, right? So we're not just going to wallow in this victim mindset and I'm so dumb and I can't believe this happened and I'm unlucky, or all the different stories that we tend to play in our minds. We want to be able to step outside of that. And so some of the ways we can do that is by just paying attention to things that are going around us, right? And so if the emotion's too much, I challenge everyone to stay with, let the emotion be your guide as much as you can, because what you're doing is you're changing that relationship. You're retraining that chemical impulse. So the next time when this happens, the chemical impulse will not be so strong because you've sat there and you've validated that emotion. But if that's too challenging, which it can be at times, then the breath you mentioned is a really great mindfulness practice, right? To change the pace of your breath. We do a number of different breathing techniques at Vision Pursue, power breathing being one of them. Paying attention, sensory perceptions. So what you can see, taste, hear, smell, touch, all those are really, really good. Let's see, body scans are really good, right? And some of that's the emotion. So, and I'd be happy to guide everyone through one if they want to, just to experience that and to practice it. But having a mindfulness based meditation practice, and I think of them as anchors, right? When I'm getting pushed around a little bit, I'm getting a little overwhelmed. I need to have an anchor that I can come back to that will help me ground me, get some clarity, so then I can respond in more effective ways.
Yeah. Because it's all about wanting to show up as our best. And that's not perfect. And like you said, there's so many people wearing so many different hats, and to give yourself that grace and to expect the expected, which includes mistakes, but how to still support yourself to show up your best. And these mindfulness techniques are really important to that. And I imagine we have listeners who are practiced meditation yogis, whatever they might be, and really like get this. But there's others that might still be like, that sounds difficult. I don't know. But I really want to highlight how simple it can be, and how, even in my example yesterday, if I would have taken 10 really deep breaths and brought myself back, I know you guys have a phrase where, train your brain to be where your feet are. And I think that works in so many different just conditions, in the sense of that would have stopped me from going to, oh, it's ruined, this thing that I didn't know next. And it also would have helped me be grounded with, what am I experiencing right now around me? The sun is shining, the wind, whatever it might be. So it doesn't always mean sitting in the corner, cross-legged with your eyes closed, and that's not what mindfulness is.
Yeah. Yeah. You want to do a couple of quick practices just so your listeners can see it? Okay, great. So the first one I like to teach is a 3x3.
Okay.
And all you do is, you can do this you can do this in a meeting. You do it with people around you, they'll have no idea that you're doing it. So all you do is you look around the space that you're in and you pick out 3 objects, and internally to yourself, you name the object and then you take a breath. All right. So I'm in my office right now. So I'll be picture frame, coffee mug, lamp. That's it. So a real simple 3x3.
I'm laughing though because I got distracted because I have one of those sand things where you tip it. I didn't know what it was called, so I got messed up on the second one.
You can make up words. The words aren't important.
Sand thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's it. That's a real simple 3x3 that you can do and no one's noticing. Now, if you want to go kind of a step beyond that, then one of the best things, if you're able to, close your eyes. And what that does just quiets the optic nerve. So do that for me real quick. Just close your eyes for a second. And I want you to notice the sounds in the room. And I want you to pay as close attention to the faintest sounds you can hear. Don't worry about naming or analyzing them. Just focus on the sounds for a few moments. And here's the key. When your mind wanders, that's okay. Bring it back to the sounds in the room. And if your mind wanders again, that's okay. Bring it back to the sounds in the room. Now I want you to take your attention to your breath, and I want you to continue to breathe normally, but I want you to slightly pause in between each inhale and each exhale. And I want you to notice that pause. And as you're doing that, I want you to notice any sensation in the body. So how does your body feel right now? Again, with all this, if your mind wanders, that's okay. That's part of this process. Just bring it back to your breath and how your body feels. And finally, I want you to take your attention to your thinking mind. And I want you just to let your thinking mind go wherever it wants to go. Let it run wild and just notice what it wants to think about, what it wants to pay attention to. And you just be the observer of it. And finally, take a couple deep breaths for me. Big inhale, big exhale. And bring your attention back to me. Good job. So we did a number of different mindfulness-based meditations there, and it's really simple. It takes a minute or two, and you kind of find the ones that connect with you, right? And really just help you like, oh, wow, that feels good. That feels different, right? That feels grounding. And the more of those you have, the more anchored you can be, regardless of how crazy the world is. And it's known as equanimity, which is a really important skill, especially for leaders, right? To be able to maintain their composure, particularly when everyone else is kind of losing their minds.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. That was wonderful. I mean, I feel calmer, more grounded. And to point out that was maybe like a minute and a half max, right. It doesn't have to be super complicated, and how it, just continually brings you back to that solid space so that you can respond in the healthy ways with all of the changes that are happening around you. Yeah. Super powerful. Thank you.
You bet.
Yeah. So I was thinking a little bit about, what you're sharing about your NFL and how you weren't taught this, and how some people really view emotions as weakness. And so I didn't know if maybe just to share a little bit about that, or ways that you guys talk about how that's just false, that emotions are not weakness, and that actually how we've attached this good and bad to emotions isn't really serving us.
Yeah, absolutely. You nailed it right there. I was taught, and I think probably a lot of your listeners were taught, that some emotions are good and some are bad. The ones that are bad, we want to resist and avoid, bury, suppress, shame, do anything to not feel those. And then we want to go chase after and feel all these positive emotions, which is an extremely dysfunctional relationship with emotion. And so getting to a place where we recognize that all emotion is really good. And what's amazing about emotion is energy. Like emotion is power, right? If we can harness it, right, and direct it and channel it in the right way. Now, we all have different emotional profiles, and our brains release chemicals at different times. One of the errors that I see with a lot of our corporate leaders and even some sports teams, coaches that we work with, is the belief that this stoic, right, never expressing emotion, that's true strength. And it can be, but it also can be weakness. And people respond to emotion. So there's mirror neurons in our brains that light up when we see someone else happy, right? And we also feel that when we see someone else sad, particularly someone that we have trust in and we have respect for. Mm-hmm. So if you are a leader, emotion is critical for you to effectively influence people and drive them in the right direction. Mm-hmm. Now, someone who is more stoic, you can do that, but it's more challenging for someone who's stoic, because with the way that comes across to other people, their mirror neurons don't light up as much, right? It can come across as apathy, right? It can come across as sort of this aloofness. And so what you think you're doing in communicating strength could actually be coming across as weakness. So the ability to manage emotion effectively is really important. And it doesn't mean for more of a stoic person that you're going to manufacture emotion and try to get all rah. That's not that. It just means that you're going to focus on bringing more intensity, more energy, right? More urgency to the way you communicate. And if you're naturally a very emotional person, right, then you embrace that strength. You also recognize that there's some limitations there. And so how do I channel that more effectively? Maybe I need to dial it down just a little bit. So at the end of the day, emotion drives us and it drives our world. And understanding our emotional brains is really, really important. Most marketing companies know our emotional brains better than we do. They know how to hit you at just the right time to have you make that behavioral or that impulse, emotional buy, whatever it is. And they know that more than you do. And so we're walking around sort of with these powerful machines that we really have never been taught how to use, and other people will use them if you don't use them. Yeah. Right. And so learn how to use your emotional brain effectively, and you'll be able to influence the world in much more effective ways.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. I mean, emotions are going to happen whether we want them to or not. And we truly are responding to them, in some way. And hopefully it's not shoving them down. And, thinking about how I love what you said about leaders and just how that it's a critical part of leading, and that, our nonverbals and the way we're expressing our emotion are definitely being picked up by our team. And that's giving them a message. Like, is it safe for me to act that way or not? And so definitely in this time where people are feeling pinched, let's say, and that could be a wide range of feeling the pressure and feeling pinched. But how important it can be to be real. Like, one really small example that just came to mind is I was on the phone with a client's mom last week, and how are you? And, and she's like, oh yeah, I cried all day on Sunday. This was me talking. And she was like, oh man, Sam, well, if you're crying, then I feel better about crying too. And it was such just a sweet little exchange, but it reminded me of how people want to know that they're not alone in their emotions. And that it's okay to cry, it's okay to laugh too, it's okay to still feel joy in these times. Let's have the whole range, but have them in a way that you're really aware and grounded. I don't know if I have a question or anything like that.
Well, you brought up some really good points. And I think that the key in understanding emotion is that all emotion is good, in that it's telling us that something needs our attention, right? This is really important. Something about our external world.
I like that.
Something about our internal world. Now, emotion's almost always wrong in what we should do about it. Right? So embracing the emotion is not a external action, right? So I'm angry, so I'm going to go, throw stuff, or I'm going to hit the wall. That is not what embracing is. Embracing is an internal practice, right? Of validating the emotion, and it's you turning to your automatic brain. So you're no longer lost in identification with your automatic brain, right? I'm angry. you're going to your automatic brain saying, hey, you're upset right now. What are you upset about? Right. And now what happens is I create some space, some separation between me and my automatic brain, between me and the chemicals. What happens to most people is they merge with the chemicals, right? And they think this is me, and it's not you. It's just a temporary chemical change. It's an alert. And so we want to change that relationship to the messenger. And so it's an internal practice. It's really good. Emotion's really good. And I'm telling you, the stronger the emotional impulse, the stronger the emotion you're experiencing, the greater the opportunity for you to rewire and retrain your brain.
Yeah.
We can't retrain. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. No, just to be really paying attention and not think, oh, this is too big. This is the exact moment. And I love, just like mindfulness is a practice, this is a practice.
Yes.
So I know that the training that VP does really walks you through, like, this isn't day 1 and this isn't even day 60, but this is working on this practice. I mean, you've been now working on this yourself for how many years?
Yeah.
And it's still a practice.
6 years. Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm still learning new things and growing in certain areas. And it's amazing the areas where it improved very quickly. And the other areas, like with my kids, where I still struggle with really strong emotion when they're struggling. And when I feel like I'm not being the best dad I want to be. And so it gives you so much awareness about your programming and your beliefs. I'm super thankful for these skills.
And what a gift it really is to your family and your communities when we all take like a healthy responsibility for our emotions, when we know what our triggers are, when we understand how our emotions are impacting us. That can be such a gift for our relationships, because then it's not finger pointing, it's coming back to, okay, this is my trigger. This is something that I need to sit with and pay attention to.
Yeah, you nailed it. Most people, when they feel a strong trigger, they immediately look to the external world and begin blaming the external world for their internal state, versus recognizing that the external world, it's just a thing. Like it's just an event. It's just an experience. It's just a difficult person, right? It's our interpretation of that that determines the emotion for us. And that's, again, where that's where our power lies. That's where we can get that influence back, but it's really easy to point the finger, and then you end up in that victim mindset.
Yeah.
And then your focus becomes, how do I fix everything out here so I can feel okay?
Yep.
All right.
And we're making that stronger too. So that's a practice in a direction we don't want to go. So a lot of us have to really undo some work and practice in the other direction. I want to check this time here. I think we're close on time. Okay. We didn't even get to, which was a whole different direction, but around kind of control the controllable and goals and attachment and, being in the process. So maybe we can chat another time and go a different direction. But I want to make sure that people, know how to get in touch with you, know how to find more resources. Can you share a little bit about who would be, a good fit for your guys' training and where people can find more information?
Yeah, so our website is visionpursue.com, and you can find everything about us there. Organizations that are good fits for us. Normally there's some really big change, so maybe a merger and acquisition, a restructuring going on. We fit really well into wellness programs, so any organizations that's concerned about mental health, mindset in particular. And then at the end of the day, we're a performance company, so organizations that are wanting to go to the next level in terms of performance mindset, how to build systems into place inside their organizations, inside their cultures that elevate mindset and equip their people with these really important skills. Those are all really great companies. We work with small companies, big global Fortune 100 companies, professional sports teams. So we're really all over the map in terms of where this applies. Yeah. But normally it's a performance issue, a wellness issue, or there's a change issue that's taken place that they want to be able to navigate more skillfully.
Yeah. It's for anybody with a brain.
That's it.
And it's, what was I just thinking there? As far as like the gift it can really be for teams. And how you guys really track too. You have ability to track, okay, this is the way somebody started the program and how their automatic thoughts and emotions are showing up. And now after they've really come to learn. So that's a huge value.
Yes. Yeah. In a very short amount of time, we're able to dramatically shift what we call life experience. So what a typical workday feels like. And in 30 to 60 days, the parts of their workday that feel really good, we double that in 30 to 60 days. And what's amazing about that is nothing changes in their environment usually. So same job, same situation, but their experience of it is dramatically improved. And then the way they show up and all these other key performance indicators that are important to organizations, those all improve. So it's a really dramatic shift inside of organizations.
It's in here and it works, people. I really hope you go to visionpursue.com and look at more of the resources. There's some talks on there. There's some links for meditations you can follow along. I believe there's a YouTube link. So, and of course, reach out to Jon if you have more questions or if it would be a good fit for your company or somebody you know. But thank you so much for joining us, Jon. I really appreciate your wisdom and your friendship.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for the great work you're doing. And hopefully, I can come back and we can talk some more soon.
Awesome. Thank you. Many people can relate to feeling stuck when you're navigating a huge life change. It can be so discouraging when you're unsure about what next step to take. I'm Samantha Lane, a certified life coach, and I partner one-on-one with men and women to create clearer thinking and more purposeful action. I happen to specialize in those who are anticipating retirement, as that's a transition that's going to impact all areas of your life. If that's you, or if you know someone who's navigating a big life change, I hope you'll sign up for a free strategy session at lumina-coaching.com. Thanks for watching Quarantine Conversations. I hope you enjoyed.